Welcome to the podcast, Following Spirit, about meditation, stories from journals of deepening. And I say every time that's slightly wrong, I got it right today. And I have with me today Ali. Welcome, Ali.
Hello.
And Ali's in Australia. We were just saying, it's just midwinter here in Scotland. It's just past midsummer, I think, down with you. It's morning here and evening there. We're straddled across those polarities. So really, I mean, we've just picked up recently. I've been seeing Ali's work. Just talking about anything. I've been seeing Ali's work on social media, and like many of us, making connections through social media these days, and just really loving Ali, feminine, and also that the divine mother, and that empowerment of mother, and as a mother and a grandmother myself. And, seeing my own daughter step into her motherhood, it's something that really, really deeply touched me to see someone like you doing this work. I call it such grounded fire. Which, yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to introduce yourself?
No, grounded fire is absolutely perfect. I loved when you brought that through. I'm like, that is where I sit. Grounded fire.
Hey. So I know that you've had some journey to get to this place of being this voice for women to come into. I think what many of us are calling it that Empress energy, of being able to bring in those different elements of being a woman, of being a mother. So would you like to share something about your path, your journey, some of the stories that
Well, it's not been an easy one. The the Empress path. So my not-for-profit Empress Rising was named so for that reason, and the vision was given to me back in 2020, this time. And little did I know, you don't know at the time what you don't know. And looking back now, 5 years later, and what I've walked through, I go, Empress Rising. That's that energy coming up now as the feminine, as the mother, the divine feminine, and that mother energy is really starting to rise. So yeah, my stories big, but also woven through the work that I do. So I find that in bringing through the work that I do, and in birthing Empress Rising, and going on a journey with that, it's an expression or an extension of my own inner journey. So my own journey through womanhood, motherhood, the reclamation of my spiritual energy, my feminine energy, the discovery, the balancing, the healing of that, all of it. So yeah, it's been 2020 was transformational for a lot of us. For me, I have three sons. I had two at the time, and my youngest at the time, he was born at the end of 2019. So when the vision came through for Empress Rising, he was about 6 months old. And my relationship was breaking down. I had big activation and a big spiritual awakening. I started to have psychic opening. It's when I was starting to be initiated. My gifts were starting to land. It was an intense time. I was, becoming mother of two, and anyone any mother watching who's gone from 1 to 2, it's a big transition. I would say like going from 1 to 2 is more difficult, I feel, for me and a lot of women agree with me too, than becoming a mother to with. There's just so much more that happens at that time and pressures, and it's just a different experience. So I was experiencing that, but also all of the psychic opening and spiritual awakening and initiation. I discovered at the time that I had repressed sexual trauma from childhood. So that was coming up through my relationship, and things were not really stable there. So there was a lot that was going on at the time. And I remember actually at the time, speaking of the changes that were coming through, I remember at the time, and I just spoke this to a friend the other day. I haven't spoken about this in quite a while, and that's significant for this time because of the earth changes and what's coming through women and the earth at the moment in that mother energy. I remember at the time, in the midst of all of this, I started to connect in. I actually put my 6-month-old in daycare for 1 day a week, just so I could find some time and space I needed that time. And I started to sit. I found a sit spot on a headland by the ocean. And this 1 day a week, I would just go and I would sit and I would just connect and meditate. And when I started to do that, I connected in with the earth. There was this one day I really dropped in and I could feel and see. It was such a profound experience. I could feel, hear, and see Mother Earth speaking to me. She showed me what was happening to her. And I could sense the feeling I got. What she communicated to me was, you'll understand this. You'll get this because you're living it and working through it and experiencing it as a mother. The burden and the load and the lack of support and the lack of understanding and the feeling of desecration. And she just showed me in a way that only women can sit and comprehend together. And I just remember this, like, it was like I knew at that time that that was what I was here for. I was here to serve her. I was here to hear her, to give her a voice, to experience that and to walk through that. And so that's where the connection came through for me in the initiation. And it was that exact spot. And I used to walk up a big headland, a big hill to that spot, every week. And when I was walking up, I would, as my senses were opening, this is normal to me now, but back at the time, I remember walking up this one time, this headland, and I had all of these, like, I described it to a friend and I said, it was like there were all of these people walking behind me. It was really weird. I could feel them and kind of see them. And it was like this team, and there was fire, this energy, and it was like I was a warrior, and there were all of these, like, people walking behind me, backing me. And then there were were physically eagles flying over, and it was just such an intense time. And I remember the feeling of, I now know what that was. I experienced it all the time. I was really connecting in with spirit and my team, my guides, my ancestors, and the initiation, the activation. I was walking, but just remember the backing and the fire, and that it was almost like a war cry. Like I was walking and just backed by that. And so all of that was happening at the time. I had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, and I was kind of in the in-between, and that's when I was setting up my counseling practice and, started my journey. So all of that happened, and I went through a separation. I was in my counseling practice at the time, but then things happened with the pandemic. And it was a bit of a journey through all of that. I was counseling at the time, and I wasn't quite sure of my path, but I just ended up doing spiritual work. The bulk of my work was tarot and energy healing, and that I moved into psychotherapy and doing more of that work, but on a sort of more spiritual level. So I never really kind of fit anywhere as a therapist at the time. It was just such a crazy time, and it's been 5 years of moving through that, through separation, becoming a single mother, disconnecting from my family of origin. So there was issues around that when raising the issue of what happened to me in childhood. I still don't have answers around that. And I know that that's, there's more of my story to come. So that's been a process for me in navigating motherhood, uh, the initiation of coming into my gifts while navigating single motherhood, adjusting to that, dealing with, the trauma and the spiritual things that were happening around that. And also, also just trying to navigate life, really. So I've actually, 2023, I met another man, and I was moving in a direction with Empress Rising, and I fell in love with a man, and I have been through another big initiation. So I have an 18-month-old as well. So the last 2 years has been a trial by fire. 2025 has been a trial by fire. So I had another separation, and I'm still navigating that at the moment. So it's not been easy. I have 3 children. I don't have contact with my family of origin, and I moved location as well. So I'm raising my 3 kids on my own and navigating that. And like many of us at the moment, kind of just leaning into what is, and dealing with those initiations as they come. And I guess for me at the moment, like we spoke about before we started recording, like we're being asked to sit in the unknown. We're being asked to surrender into the unknown. And for me, I can see that the journey I've walked through over the last, 5 years, I look at the woman I was back then and the woman I am now and where I'm at now, and the process I've been through in coming into womanhood, maturity, learning patience, learning to stand in my own energy, and learning to trust in such a vulnerable space, like as a mother. My youngest toddler, and my stories, right? All of our stories come up around, you know, oh, I'm a single mother. I don't have any support. Those
all of those beliefs.
all of those belief systems, So 2025 has been the year of really, really looking at all of that. It was almost like looking back now on the year that's been, I'm like, okay, so I did need this initiation, the second round, to really, really, I guess, learn the lessons or refine what couldn't be refined, back then. So Saturn's been a hard taskmaster. That's for sure. So that's my story. And through all of it has been poured into my craft and poured into my passion and into Empress Rising, and it's been such an evolution. All of my pain, all of my initiation, all of the everything has all been poured into that path and that mission and that work with women to, I guess, lead by example.
Well, yeah. And excuse me. And I think this is very often the way we go through these experiences, these initiations, that are life-changing. I mean, I can recognize myself at certain stages of my life, and yet I know all the women that I were or was contributes to the woman I am now. But it's through going through those we can support others through going through those experiences. It's like it's through that that lived experience, and having embodied the wisdom of that lived experience.
Yeah, that's something I'm really seeing. And I saw, like, in looking at the spiritual industry, I guess you could call that, or the self-help industry. Like, and I really look at, I've had lots of conversations around this. It's like, when you look at the Love and Light Brigade, I'd like to affectionately refer to them as. I think you can pick up what I'm putting down. It's, there's so many courses and activations and all of these things that are being sold to aspiring healers. And I mentor healers, like I work with people, developing their gifts and moving into their path. I've got a background in career coaching. I now take that into my practice and my work with women. And I say to them, or I say to these women all the time, the number one thing you can offer anybody is your frequency embodiment. It's our own experience. And that's what I'm getting at, is what I've walked through. For me, it would be easy for me to say, why me? Why all this?
Yeah.
Why? But I know why. I know why. Because I can now stand embodied in that. And you can't teach something you haven't embodied, right? You can't pay to be a shaman. You can't pay to be a psychic medium. You can't pay for the activations or the gifts or the anointing in spiritual work. That's given to you. It's earned through initiation, and it's divinely guided, like. So I think 2026 is really going to see the refinement of that. I guess we're going to see very clearly who is embodied and who is simply repeating something that they've learned. Or, like, I think we're now moving into a time where those old structures and old paradigms are starting to fall away. And I used to, kind of as a therapist, I didn't go and do a university degree. And I used to really, that was one thing that I felt like an imposter in my craft, in circles, in my profession. Like, I felt like an imposter because I hadn't found that path in that way. I didn't, I wasn't qualified in the same way as a lot of my peers. And so I was looking at myself and measuring myself up against, this structured, paradigm of the systemic, like, oh, this person has been and studied and they have a master's level qualification, therefore they rank higher than me. This hierarchical way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And I look now and I go, oh yeah, no, that's that's not where we're at or where we're moving forward
Yeah.
anymore in any way, shape, or form.
And I feel that our energetic discernment is sharpening as well. And I think that's something that I don't want to open this can of worms, but I'll bring it in. Just that AI is teaching us, right? And is that level of discernment about something that has a human consciousness, embodied human consciousness, shall we say, working through it, and that doesn't. So before we go on any further, Michelle, I just, with all of these experiences and initiations, what has been your sense of what that following spirit, following guidance as it's evolved? What has that been like for you?
Or it's been a white knuckle ride. A white knuckle ride. There have been times, where like I've had to take leaps of faith into these absolute uncharted waters. I remember when my relationship was breaking down. I remember, I did my relationship with the father of my two older boys. At the time, there was this point where I just knew that I had to end that relationship. It was not going to work. It was not supportive to me at the time. And I knew that I couldn't move forward in that and confront what I needed to confront in my own healing with my trauma that I needed to look at. But, at the time, I didn't have a stable income. I had, nothing to fall back on. Our lease was up on the house that we were in, and my ex-partner moved out, got himself a place, and off he went. And I was there, and I had to extend the lease, and I was lucky that the landlord extended the lease for me. And I was in this situation where I was facing down, okay, I've got my 5 and 2-year-old, and I need to find a place to live. I have no income, uh, very little income. I was only just starting out in my counselling practice, and I just I'd just gone no contact with my family of origin. So it was all of that was a really big mess. And so I remember, like, I applied for welfare payments at the time, and it was this really big wait to get a single parent payment. Like, it took, I think, like 8 weeks or something. It was just unheard of, the delays. It was just bizarre. And I remember at the time, just the guidance coming through to me was just, it's okay, just sit. And I couldn't apply for any houses through real estate. Like, I had no income to provide. There was no documentation I could provide. So I was put in this position of surrender. I had no, I guess it was a test in a sense. I mean, I could have at the time gone back and reconnected with my family of origin, or I could have, moved, gotten a place with my ex, and I was faced with a choice. It was a test, and it was an initiation. And I knew at the time, I could feel it. There was no way of, it was the unknown, but I could feel it. And I knew I had this knowing that it would be okay, that I would be.
Mm.
And so, like, a few people that I was connected to, they're like, "You're crazy. What do you mean? Like, you're insane. You're going to be homeless with 2 kids." And I'm like, no, no, no. I have to, I have to sit in this. And it was just one day out of the blue, when it was right down to the wire, someone came to me and said, "Oh, my friend, or my husband's friend has got this place, and they actually they have this rental that they rent out to single mothers for lower than market rent. It's just a private rental. Um, like it might be perfect for you. And it was. So I went, had a look, and it was smooth. It was perfect. It just fell into my lap. I didn't go looking. Like it was just, and it just happened that way. Uh, and there's been a few moments like that for me since. Like there's been a few situations, like over time, I've learned that things will just show up at the right time. But it's always in an initiation. It's always a test. It's like you can feel, for me, like, and my guides are pretty like there's a lot of fire in my team, right? That warrior energy. Yeah, and I can feel them at times, like behind me saying, are you gonna, like, we're pushing you, we're testing you, like, are you gonna walk your talk? Are you gonna take the path? Or are you gonna go back? How strong are you?
Hold your nerve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I'm like, hold my beer. Watch this. So,
And then
I
it's
don't
like,
mind.
we told you everything would be okay when it fall into place, right?
Yeah. And a very similar thing happened with, what I've just been through with my most recent relationship. So my toddler's father, things, yeah, things really, he left, and I was left with $820 a week rent, which is a lot. And it was
Mhm.
almost like it was kind of a similar situation, but a bit more, like there was a lot more going on there. But I had an overwhelming amount of responsibility and financial pressure, and I had a baby. I gone back to work. I didn't have, yeah, it was pretty crazy. And it was very similar. Something just fell into my lap that was absolutely perfect. And I look at it, the place I'm in now, and we're in a housing crisis here. Like it's the homelessness here where I live. The homelessness rate is just next level. We've had big floods here, uh, which back in 2022, which has really impacted that. But all along the east coast of Australia, like Australia is in the midst of a ridiculous housing crisis. Here is probably a bit worse than the rest. So like I look at it and I go, how the hell did that happen? Like how did that fall into, like, I don't know how that happened. But yeah, the real estate agent, she said to me, yeah, look, we've got like about 40 applications. Like she said, but we'll just put you in because you've been paying your rent, like despite your ridiculous circumstances, you somehow made it work. And I'm like, yeah, I did. But she's like, yeah, no, we'll just put you in. Anything.
And I think it's that how on earth that is in that gratitude, isn't it? Which I feel is really important to
Yeah.
uh, both to neutralize all difficulties and challenges that have led us to that situation, but that knowing that we're being looked after as well through it all.
Yeah, that's one thing that, for me, that has been the lesson on the path is to really truly understand how energy and alignment works when you are really truly connected. And that's it's a paradigm shift. And I guess that's the um the journey for me from the woman I was before 2020. I was highly codependent, and that woman that I was would never be able to sit and do things the way that I do that now. There's I felt dependent on others, and I was. Where now, even though it's seemingly impossible, there's this connection, and I know, like, I mean, I'm struggling to pay my bills at the moment, and there's this kind of in between. Okay, how is this going to work? But I'm sitting deeply rooted in. Okay, well, I know I need to continue following this path because I know that I will be provided for, and it's everything's shown up at the right time always, right?
Yes.
Despite nail biting moments, especially as a mother, as a single mother, you're like, how, like how, but I guess it's the shift. Really, for me, I feel that I'm anchoring that shift from patriarchal paradigms, patriarchal structures, patriarchal belief systems and ways of doing things into a more expanded way.
Yeah.
I guess the way to kind of describe that would be the 3D way of doing things as opposed to the 5D way. For me, it's been, okay, I just have to lean into my own energy and make sure I take care of my own energy, protect my peace, stay connected, stay grounded, stay regulated. And everything just happens around that, right? It's that regulated state and my energy. I'm like, oh, it's actually my energy that brings this, not the chasing or not the needing to panic and go and do all of the things, go through social services and housing and all of the appointments that are stressful and take up all of your time. Like it's, yeah, for me, it's the understanding that if we go inward and really connect and trust, then things just come in. They do. I don't know how, they just do.
Yeah. Or
And that is synergy.
yeah, yes. Or if
That's
the order of things shift and change, and it's a much more beneficial, in unexpected ways, and it's like, oh, of course, I could have never have seen that, perceived that, or really thought of that. Wow.
Yeah, it's surrendering over. It's handing over to, like, for me, that's surrendering, really going into one feminine energy. And that for me that's an empress. That's what an empress does. The empress, she sits in her embodied feminine energy. She doesn't go out chasing and making things happen. She sits on her throne and she's abundant and she grows things. She magnetizes things. That's what the feminine does. And so for me, it's been really, I guess, a journey into that and out of that old way of having to do and chase and be in a really limited scarcity kind of mindset. It's like, well, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to trust that everything will come to me within the right time, and I'll have that more and better thank you spirit. I'll just sit here and
I still find there's some nail biting moments.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm like, I have to have a word. I just said to a friend, actually, I was back and forth on Messenger before. I'm like, I have to have a word with upstairs about 2025. I've told them that I need better conditions this next year. Absolutely. Yes, I'll be renegotiating my contract.
So I want to go back to what we're saying earlier, especially earlier on the path before you came into that alignment and that more conscious awareness of alignment, because what I liked about what you said, where there were various options that were possibilities, but that would have been either a side backward step, and yet something kept you held, knowing that your path was not that. When I'd like, I don't know, can you explain a little bit more about that experience? I kind of call it the choiceless truth, but it's something for me that has evolved over time, in smaller ways, making, not fully committing to that path forward, and making, going off a bit of a tangent, and so on and so forth. Would you like to speak a bit to that, and how you felt that energy around making those choices and being able to stay and wait?
Well, I can tell you right now that for me, something happens for me when I go to make a decision that's not in alignment. And like, I like to say that we all have free will, and we do all have free will, right? But I have had, can I swear? Like, I've had no fucking free will. Like, really, I've had plenty of to say about that. Like, we've had beef about that. But like, when you have a destined alignment, when you have a path, and you know, like the Empress, the path of the Empress, and this the women that I work with, you know, like you have a fated alignment.
Mm.
So what happens is when you're on that path, or you make a choice that doesn't align with that, or you go into a karmic cycle or back, you get an energetic backlash.
Yeah.
That's what happens. There's this energetic backlash. For me, what happens is this is how I see it, is like a roller door just comes and slams down. Like I'll go to, you know, like go and connect with and that door just slams shut. It's like something happens that like something will happen that will just close that door, or there will be just such an energetic backlash for me that I feel it, and I'm like, this, you know, you have to listen to what's going on. Like, is there a mental loop happening? What's happening within me? How am I feeling in my body? You know when something's not aligned, and that's the energetic backlash. Like, we have to listen to that.
Yeah.
So the thing is, for me, it's like I can't not listen, because if I, like, a lot of people have the choice and they can go into the karmic cycles and do whatever they can do. It doesn't work like that for me and others like me. The door just slams shut, and you put in, like, I've been put in spiritual timeout, and you just get put in isolation. And spirit's like, you're not doing anything or going anywhere or do it.
Huh?
No free will.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, we'll just put you here to just heal, and you won't be able to go and distract yourself or go do, like, you have to be on your destined path in your alignment. Like, it's, you're here, and that's so, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. I sometimes feel when I kind of look back, and I think, oh, you know, if I'd have done this, if I'd have done that. And it's, you know, and I'm talking, say, 20, 30 years ago. So, but I feel, because of that sort of time frame, that everything kind of converged anyhow. And it's like you say, then getting those experiences of exactly as you're saying, and then I find, oh, this is the choiceless choice, right?
Choice is choice. Yeah. Like, you have to make that choice.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I've, yeah. So have you any more stories that you'd like to share, Anne, around that? happens?
I have a lot of stories, but probably I don't really have much else to share. It's my story is still being written, and I feel that there's a big chunk about to unfold. I can feel it within me, and I can feel, this. It's a strange feeling. It's that moment at the moment where I'm just sitting, and I know that there's something coming and something about to move, but I don't know what it is. And so my story at the moment is just the surrendering into that, in this to that, without trying to push forward or
And
trying.
what you've shared has been very rich and intense. So I know that there's a lot more within that. People will resonate with similar experiences, will understand that often in the telling, that all the experiences in the moment, can't always be easily expressed. So I mentioned earlier that I've got a new little bit that I would like to add, and that's about the news story. And I know you're in this holding place, but what news story would you like to see unfold for yourself or your community?
The new story now for me is that lessons no longer require pain and intensity. That growth can be, this new story for me is about consistent growth, not it's a new story for me in terms of the way that I grow and develop and move forward. For me, it's been these intense bursts. So it's been really inconsistent, and in and out of, in really in the dark, and then coming forward into, and really trying to stabilize that. So the story for me moving forward is consistency, consistent growth and expansion, and letting things in, allowing new things in, new experiences. It's unwritten. I just heard it's unwritten. It's written. It's unwritten.
But we can request how we learn. So we could, I like to learn through fun and adventure. How would you like to learn?
I like to learn through chaos and turmoil and trauma.
So you want to rewrite that, yeah?
I am rewriting that. Yes, it's written anyway, but that's shifting and changing. For me, it's everything that I haven't had, everything that I haven't had, and like this journey for me over the last 5 years has been very much a story of this story of you can't have anything, and I've learned not to accept those projections from people in my life that have been in my life, and also from the collective consciousness that asserts that onto women like me, that patriarchal grab that says you can't have anything. That's that distorted masculine consciousness. And so rewriting that for me now is that's no longer in my story.
Yeah.
So the new story is, I can have what I want. And I'll allow that in, whatever that is to be. So I'm ready to experience that new without
without having to burn yourself out doing it.
Yeah. There's been there's been a real story for me around not receiving love, not receiving support, not receiving, abundance. Not like there's been, the path of the Empress is very much fraught with that. So yeah, the new story is receiving and allowing it all to come in and not needing to manage or know what that looks like. Because what I thought and the threads that I've been holding on to, I guess what I thought I wanted or what I thought I needed has kind of fallen away with those healings that I've been through. So, new story. I don't know. It's unwritten. It's written. I know it is because it's coming in, but it's unwritten. So, I guess it's written, but it's not read yet. So, bring it next year, whatever.
Maybe it's
Does that
one of those stories, there's multiple, and it's just seeing what emerges out of this space as we move through 2020.
Yeah, choose your own adventure. Thank you, Spirit. A choose your own adventure. Brilliant. They've set the bit of a structure. They've got it on offer, and I can choose what they're offering.
Whatever it is, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And I love what you say about consistency. I think that not just consistency in growth, but that consistency in many, many other ways, yeah, the new human.
And that stable frequency. Descension, ascension, descension, ascension. There's a stabilization coming in just when you spoke that, when you said the new human, that's what I got, is starting to really anchor those new frequencies in a more balanced way, rather than, when we go through those big healings and attentions, it's actually stabilizing that now.
That's amazing.
Which will be really nice.
And we are just recording. It's just in that in between Christmas and New Year. So, there'll be New Year. I post it, so we'll already be into 6 then. So that kind of feels like the recording, the making it public. So it feels even in that time, a lot could still shift. Oh, thank you, Ali. I really enjoyed our conversation today. And is there anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye to our listeners and watchers?
No, I will say this though. If you want to check out my work, you can go to www.empressrising.org. If you are a woman watching and what I've said has resonance with you, I have a community called Ministry of Motherhood. I am not selling anything. I am gathering women and supporting women. So check that out and please, drop in to the community, even the school community. I'd love to connect with people there. But please like and share Tanya's work. She is amazing. And subscribe.
Thank you for that.
I always think
I just like, oh, well, I'll just receive. Don't need to ask.
Balance.
Yeah. Ask and you shall receive. I just don't know how. And I'll also be putting that information in the description box below, wherever how you can contact Ali and connect with the Ministry of Motherhood, and all of that information will be below wherever you're watching or listening to this. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for connecting with us. We're wishing you a wonderful 20 years. So I feel it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. We're moving across the threshold right now.
Yeah. So sending you much love from my heart.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been beautiful. Mwah.